I was 29 when I made the biggest mistake of my life. Every night my husband would place his hand on my growing belly and whisper to our unborn baby. He talked about teaching our child to ride a bike. He argued over baby names. One evening he even knelt in front of me, gently kissed my stomach and said, "Thank you for making me a father." I smiled, even though I already knew the baby wasn't his. For months, I convinced myself I could live with that lie. Then one ordinary afternoon, everything fell apart. My husband, Daniel, and I had been married for 7 years. We weren't unhappy, we were distant. He worked long hours running his construction company. I spent most evenings alone, and instead of telling him how lonely I felt, I looked for comfort somewhere else. That's when I met Tyler. He listened, he laughed at my jokes. He remembered little things Daniel had forgotten. What started as coffee after work slowly became an affair. I kept telling myself it would end soon. Instead, I discovered I was pregnant. The timing made my heart sink. Daniel had been away on a 2-week business trip around the time I conceived. Deep down, I already knew the truth. Tyler wanted nothing to do with the pregnancy. "This isn't the life I want," he said, before disappearing from my life completely. Daniel, on the other hand, cried when I showed him the pregnancy test. He hugged me so tightly I almost confessed everything. Almost. Instead, I hugged him back and let the lie grow. Daniel transformed overnight. He painted the nursery himself. He worked fewer hours. He read parenting books every evening. He talked to our baby before leaving for work. Watching him become the father he'd always dreamed of being filled me with guilt. But every day I stayed silent made the truth harder to tell. I convinced myself that love mattered more than biology. Maybe. No one would ever know. Our daughter arrived healthy. Daniel held her in his arms and cried with happiness. He whispered, "I'll protect you forever." Looking at them together, I wondered if I'd made the right choice. Years passed. He loved her without hesitation, birthday parties, school plays, bedtime stories. He never missed a moment. She called him Daddy, and he proudly answered every single time. When our daughter turned 4, Daniel bought a family DNA kit. He thought it would be fun to learn about our ancestry. My stomach twisted into knots. I tried convincing him it wasn't worth the money. He laughed. "It's just for fun," I smiled. Inside, I was terrified. 2 weeks later, the results arrived. Daniel didn't say a word. He simply placed the envelope on the kitchen table. Then he looked me in the eyes. "Tell me the truth." I couldn't. The silence answered for me. I expected screaming. I expected anger. Instead, Daniel stayed calm. A week later, both of our families gathered for our daughter's birthday dinner. After everyone finished eating, Daniel stood up. He thanked everyone for coming. Then he quietly placed the DNA report on the table. I found out this week that I'm not her biological father. The room went completely silent. No one knew what to say. My parents stared at me. His parents looked completely heartbroken. Daniel turned toward me. "I could have forgiven almost anything." He paused. "But you stole my right to choose." Those words hurt more than if he'd shouted. Our marriage ended a few months later. The divorce was painful. Friends stopped calling. Some blamed me. Others simply disappeared. The hardest part wasn't losing my marriage. It was watching the man who had loved my daughter from the day she was born struggle with what came next. He wasn't her biological father, but in every way that mattered, he had been her dad. Thankfully, he remained in her life because they both wanted that bond to continue. I will always be grateful for that. People often ask what my biggest mistake was. The affair? No. Getting pregnant? No. The biggest mistake was believing that one lie could protect everyone. It didn't. It protected me until it destroyed all of us. The truth has a way of waiting, quietly, patiently, and when it finally arrives, it usually takes everything with it. If you're carrying a secret that has the power to change someone's life, don't convince yourself that time will make it disappear, because sometimes the longer you hide the truth, the more people it hurts when it finally comes out. I learned that far too late, and by then, the family I thought I was protecting was already broken.